Holy crap, that actually looks so good.
So LG has just released their newest iteration of what I think to be their most popular OLED TV. Coming off the release of the LG C1 and C2 OLED, the latest LG C3 OLED has some minor improvements over the previous models. That said, I'm going to be approaching this TV as a standalone unboxing, setup, and first impressions, and not particularly a comparison to the last generation. With that, the C2 will obviously be a little bit cheaper than the C3 OLED, but for this video I'll be jumping into some gaming and entertainment, and my full review will be out in just a couple weeks. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. On this channel I talk about gaming, tech, and a few things in between, so if you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and if you don't, you're going to be so tired tonight, but you still won't be able to fall asleep. And I do want to give a thanks to Ekster for sponsoring today's video, but more on them in a bit. Okay, so jumping right into the unboxing, this is specifically for the 42-inch model, but I will say it's ever so slightly different for the larger sized variants. In the box, you have the accessories package, which does include the remote with batteries, this set of rear mounted cable clips, as well as a side plate to cover your inputs. The cable management clips here are actually super useful, and it's always nice to be able to keep your setup tidy. There is an IR blaster here if you do need it, and of course the set of legs. And the difference with the 42-inch model is that it comes with two sets of tiny feet instead of the center-mounted base you'd find on the larger variants. Now moving over to the back of this TV, it's absolutely wild to see how thin OLEDs are. And even with the back housing, it's still pretty thin. In terms of ports, you have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, 3 USB Type A's, as well as a headphone jack, Ethernet, an optical and TS232 port, as well as a coax for TV or antenna. The beauty of having 4 HDMI 2.1 ports is even if you use one of these for your sound system, you still have 3 more to work with. Definitely good considering some TVs only have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. And on the back of the TV itself, there are 300 by 200 VESA mounting holes. I'm almost considering mounting this to the wall above my desk. That would be sick, but I do swap out my displays a little too frequently. One side note is that the power cable is not removable, it seems, just something to keep in mind. And as mentioned, do not sleep on the cable management. It takes just a few moments to set up. With the included clips, you can route your cables to the legs and out the back end, and you won't see a thing. And I do want to give a shout out to Ekster, who makes some of the best accessories I've ever used. If you're looking into getting dad or yourself a new wallet, you'll definitely want to check out the wallets and accessories from Ekster. Their unique design helps replace your old and fat wallet with a beautifully slick wallet, which can hold up to 12 cards. With just a press of this satisfying button, you have access to all your cards as well as a strap for your cash. Not only are they made with certified premium leather and space-grade aluminum, but they're also RFID protected to ward off wireless theft. My favorite is definitely the Senate card holder in Juniper Green, which matches my laptop sleeve. Be sure to check out shop.ekster.com/minimalistech or use code Minimalistech at checkout. Ekster is running a 35% off sale for Father's Day through to June 20th, and thanks to Ekster for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so when it comes to design and aesthetic, LG always nails it, and the C3 OLED is wildly impressive. I'm still surprised on how wildly thin OLED panels are. This is one of the things that just makes me think we're living in the future. And as mentioned, the 42-inch model does have 2 feet instead of the center stand, but it still does a really good job. There's practically zero side-to-side wobble, and front-to-back wobble is still minimal even when I'm really going at it. And I'm not sure what the material on the back end is, but it does look like a nice metal. It might be plastic, but either way you won't really see it. And I do have to mention the bezels on this TV are still insanely thin. And I know typically people have these set up in their living rooms, but since this is a 42-inch model, I will be using it as a monitor setup, and it's still awesome. Now, depending on the size of your C3 OLED, setup is really easy. For myself, it was just a matter of putting on the legs and plugging my things in. In terms of my setup, I do have 2 systems hooked into this TV. One is my PlayStation 5 and the other is my 2021 MacBook Pro, which uses HDMI hooked up to this Thunderbolt dock. Coming down to the actual software setup, it's surprisingly quick. And the first thing I've noticed is that this UI is much more responsive and snappier than the C2 OLED. Off the bat though, you're just going to be signing into your Wi-Fi, you're going to pair the remote to the TV itself, and then follow through with any sort of app installs. One of the things I really appreciate off the bat, especially if you're excited to get this thing open, is that the TV doesn't force you to do any sort of software updates right off the bat. It does download it in the background, and it installs it the next time you turn your TV off. Now I do want to jump into my favorite thing, which is definitely gaming. Gaming on the C3 OLED never fails to impress, and simply put, this is likely the reason you're probably going to pick this up. Between the gaming specific menu options, the 4K, HDR, 120Hz refresh rate, alongside auto low latency mode, this really does give an insane gaming experience. I'll definitely dive into more detail when it comes to my full review, but in the little bit of time I've spent gaming on here, it's still super easy to appreciate the vibrance of an OLED panel. And it doesn't matter what you're playing either, everything simply looks gorgeous. From story-based games like Ghost Ghost of Tsushima or first-person shooters like Call of Duty, the new gen consoles take full advantage of everything this TV has to offer. And it's not just gaming too. Coming down to the entertainment aspect, not only does this TV have everything built right into the OS, but anything that you throw up on the display itself looks insane. Now, I'm not going to pretend I wouldn't want some more brightness when it comes to an OLED panel, but compared to an LED, it really comes down to your preference. And as a longtime LG C2 OLED user, one of the things I've noticed so far is that the C3 is actually a bit brighter. For anyone with a fat ass window, this is actually a pretty good reason you'd get this over the C2. And of course, smart TVs are becoming more and more capable year over year, and the C3 is no exception. It has all of the popular apps like Disney+, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV, and loads of others I've never even heard of. And when it comes to HDR content, it really does look great on here. Not to mention the speakers are actually pretty damn good, even on this 42-inch model. Here's a quick sound test.
Our troops just do it!
Now, when it comes down to smart TVs and their UIs, they're usually pretty bloated. And again, I try not to compare TVs too much, but the homepage on the C3 is similar, but a little bit more palatable compared to the last gen C2. And one of the things I do want to mention is that there's still recommended content and ads. At the top end, there is a massive banner with an ad, and there is some more suggested content below that. Other than that, you are met with all the tiles that you would actually use day to day. And considering this TV is still pretty expensive, it does kind of suck that there's ads baked into your everyday experience. If anything, I'd always recommend hooking up an Apple TV or a game console and you won't get any ads. When it comes down to the apps you actually use, you can rearrange these yourself or have the TV rearrange them depending on how frequently you use them. Overall, I will say this is definitely an improvement in the UI compared to previous iterations, and it's noticeably quicker. So yeah, that's my first impressions of the LG C3 OLED. Again, I do have to mention, if you already have an LG C2 OLED, there's definitely no reason to swap to this, but if you have something older, this is a huge upgrade and you will most definitely appreciate all of the features. This TV simply exudes quality, and I can't wait to dive deeper into everything this TV has to offer, including gaming, shows, and movies. But let me know if you guys have any questions you'd like me to cover in my full review. Again, I will have that out in just a couple weeks. I appreciate you guys watching till the end. Until next time.